What's up, everyone? Dave Dustin here. This is gonna be awesome. This is beyond bleeding cool. This is just gonna be fantastic. I cannot even explain how excited I am to get into this. This is just gonna be spectacular, this video. If you are interested in 50s American horror comics, you're gonna wanna watch this whole thing, because I just had this package arrive here, and I'm telling you, there's gonna be some fantastic stuff in here. Stuff that is unknown to exist currently, that nobody has ever seen before. It's been hidden away for a very long time, and there's no information about this that I can find anywhere online on the internet. I mean, we're talking about 50s American horror comics that were not published for some of the items that I have here. Just some of them. There's a whole bunch of stuff that I gotta go through, a whole bunch of pieces. It's really awesome. Just wait and see. It's going to be fantastic. Because we're talking about 50s American horror comics, up there on the rack, got a whole bunch of my American 50s horror comics. I had these all brought up to Canada here over here. Some really awesome books up there, some of my favorites. A lot of EC stuff. But anyway, we're going to get into this. I'm going to open up this package that just arrived. This is so cool. Make sure I open this carefully. Alright. I have no idea what order this stuff's going to be in. But there is a lot that I'm going to show you. Okay, I don't even know where to start with this. How about we start with this right here? That's right, we're talking original printer's proofs. Avon Comics. So this is Erie. This here is off of Erie number 9. So that's the masthead. There's the logo. You can see the head of the zombie there. That's awesome. There's so many awesome pieces that you are going to see here. So that's the original printer's proof. Here is Erie number 9, 1952. That's a copy of it. There you can see with the printer's proof. That's really awesome. All right. Next. Check this out. Planet Mars. Ink going over on the back. There's lettering for Attack Planet Mars. So I have that here somewhere. Attack on Planet Mars, 1951. That's really awesome. Attack on Planet Mars. So what this is this whole pile. This came from Bar, Massachusetts. So I'll give you a little bit of a background on what I'm showing you here right now. So this came from, the seller was Brian, and he had this in his collection for the last 10, 12 years. He had this folder full. See at the top, comic book negatives for covers and titles, and then there was an N that scratched off in letter A. So A had all Avon Comics items is what you're looking at right now. So these are all from Avon Comics in the 1950s. He said that he had got this back 10, 12 years ago from an ephemera dealer over there who had purchased it from a storage locker find in New Jersey. So this somehow got put into a storage locker in New Jersey and was bought 10, 12 years ago, and then he's been selling it for the last year or two now, piecing it off. He has pieces for sale right now on eBay for some other Avon stuff. There was another horror lot that had sold about like a year or two ago, and there was some eerie stuff in it, but apparently it wasn't the 40s original eerie. It was like this from the 50s. Not sure exactly what was in it. Unfortunately, I didn't even notice it. I missed out, but I got this one, and well, I'll just keep going. Wait till you see what else is in this. This is crazy. There you go. Here's a skull. You can see that. Got glue all over the back. Yeah. He's got blue pencil. So this anyway is from Escape from Devil's Island by Avon Comics. So this would be the artwork used for the head in the top corner there. That's really cool. Wow. You have some lettering. The Devil Keeps a Date. So The Devil Keeps a Date is from Erie number 6, 1952. Which would be this here. You see, The Devil Keeps a Date. They also had the same, they didn't just use all the lettering on the front cover. With these Avon comics, inside the front cover, it would have the titles of the stories again, and it would have little spot illustrations, and it would have a couple sentences telling you what the story's about. So this may have been from the inside of the cover, or it might have been used on the outside, some of them. Oh, here's a cool one. Flying Saucers. See that? Flying Saucers. So that would be off the cover of this. Flying Saucers, 1950. That's really awesome. See the size of the lettering. Flying Saucers. Here's two pieces. Deadly Triangle. So Deadly Triangle, that is from Realistic Romances from 1951. So that's from a romance comic, actually. There's stuff jumbled in here that's actually not all from horror comics. Here's a neat one because it's got both the black, white, and reverse negative. Out of This World. Can't really tell what's written on there. It has some writing at the top corner. Out of This World. So that is from this comic here. This isn't the American one. This is the rare British edition, Out of This World. So there's the lettering that was used for the title right there. Out of This World. That's really awesome. Having that. What else do we have here? We have Flying Saucers. I had that somewhere. I'm not sure where it's got to right now, but it's another Avon comic. It says double size, and it's got some other writing. Can't really tell what it says. Yeah, you can see right here. Some drawing on the back. I'll just brighten this up real quick. All right. So you can see the YING is actually pasted over another piece. There's some whiteout marks from the lettering. Little doodle on the back. That's pretty cool. Flying Saucer. Okay, I'm gonna get into something really awesome right now. Check this out. A how-to book, the complete how-to book of space. How-to number 7. LB Coal Cover. How awesome is that? Look at this. That is fantastic. You see that this is glued right on. This is glued on here. You see there's glue here because the lettering's gone from here. There was a whole bunch of lettering there. That's a little piece glued on, a how-to book. Looks like a sticker. Oh, no, it's a little piece. 1+1 matte. And I can't even tell what it says. 6 3/4 written down at the bottom here. There's some more writing on the back. Oh, crazy is that? LB Cole cover. That is awesome. Wow. That is so awesome. So that is here we go. There's the actual published copy. The only place I could find this was on My Comic Shop. They have none in stock, but there's a little write-up about it saying the publisher's unknown. So, well, the publisher's Avon Comics, apparently. That is really awesome. That's so cool. I'm going to frame a whole bunch of this stuff and just hang up. This is just the most awesome stuff ever. LB Cole cover. I love LB Cole covers. I like the Ghostly Weird. I love that cover. That's just awesome. Can you get this more lettering? It's got a gloss finish to it. The Strange Indian Curse. So the Strange Indian Curse, this was from Erie #6. Strange Indian Curse. That'd be this again. It's inside this comic. Blood for the Vampire. Just like a photostat. Blood for the Vampire. So this is actually from Erie #7. Here's Erie #7, and written right on the cover it says Blood for the Vampire. Got Sheena, Queen of the Jungle. You see on the back it was glued down to something and been torn off of something. Yeah, you can see that this is an original on here too. This is done with pen. There's all kinds of whiteout. You can see there's all kinds of corrections all around all the letters. There's been all kinds of corrections made, whiteout. It's been redrawn over. Original art right there. Sheena, Queen of the Jungle. So this would have been, I believe, this type style of writing. I believe when I looked it up, it wasn't from the original Avon series, but it's a different type style that was used in the 1958 IW Super reprint, if I'm correct. I have to check into this stuff further. I've just barely got into researching some of this stuff that's showing up right now, but this is all just fantastic stuff. It's so awesome. There's so much more, and it just gets better too. You got the Nightmare. So again, this has got like a sheen to it. It's like a photostat, almost, glossy paper. So the Nightmare was Erie #7 as well. Another one that's shining like a photostat. We got Haunted Honeymoon. Haunted Honeymoon. This was from Erie #7 as well. Witch Doctor Murder Cult. So this was from White Princess of the Jungle #2, 1951. Witch Doctor Murder Cult. This is again, it's a photostat, it's glossy paper. Man O' Mars. So lettering for Man O' Mars. Again, glossy paper photostat. So this was I believe from the lettering style on this, I believe it's also different from the original early 50s Avon series. I believe this is the lettering that is found on the 1958 IW Super reprint, just like that other one. Those are the only two pieces that were in here that look like 1958 IW Super reprints. All the rest, original early 50s Avon art. I mean, like not the IW reprint, just a truer reprint from IW. Love is Hate. Love is Like Hate. Sorry, Love is Like Hate is from Romantic Love number 10 from 1952. The Maniac Gunman. Another photo set. Maniac Gunman. So this would have been from Prison Break number 4, 1952. Prison Break number 4. Monster of the Sea. Like another photo set. Monster of the Sea. This would have been from Erie number 6, 1952. Another photo set. The Chamber of Death, The Stranger in Studio X, Honeymoon of Horror, The Thing from the Sea. So this would have been Erie number 2. I can show you an Erie number 2. I have, again, I don't have the American original ones. I have the more rare British editions. So there's Erie number 1 British edition. There's Erie number 2 British edition. And there's Erie number 3 British edition. So this would be number 2. So there's lettering right there at the bottom. That's the original publisher's proof. That there. That's really cool. I have that book and have that. Okay, we're just gonna get into better stuff real soon. The really awesome stuff is coming. The Ghoul Walks and Black Means Death. Some lettering on the back. I don't know if that's S/S or. The Ghoul Walks and Black Means Death. So that's Erie number 7. We got here Space. I'm not sure what this is from. So this is not from the complete book of Space, unless this is inside. Because like I know, like Avon Comics, they had titles inside also. But like, there's a lot of comics that have the little lines in the word Space I've seen, but I can't find this font anywhere. A real telltale sign is the letter C. The letter C goes to a really sharp point at the bottom. I can't find a sharp point on a C in any comic title or on any comic cover that I've seen. Like, it doesn't have it here. I've only seen so much. I've only been looking for these since I saw this online, so I have a lot more hunting to do, but I can't place this one piece. I have no idea where this space text came from at all. Well, if anyone can figure that out, let me know. That'd be great to figure out where this was used. Probably Avon Comics. Don't know which one. Okay. Oh, a little bit more lettering here too. We have, this is pretty big, The Army of Terror, Black Death, The Ant Invasion, and the Blue Gorilla. There's some paper that's been glued up onto it. That's really big. This is huge, this lettering here. So this would have been used actually on White Princess of the Jungle number 3 from 1952. Had those stories in it. That was on the cover. And they really blown that up really large. Okay, now we are getting into real awesome stuff here. This is just fantastic. In this case, you got some black ink spilled. That's okay. City of the Living Dead. Would you look at that? That is awesome. There's the printer's proof for City of the Living Dead. A.C. Hollingsworth cover. It's really cool to see that as a negative. That's awesome. So that is from this comic here. So here is City of the Living Dead. There's the printer's proof. That's fantastic. Getting better. You're getting into the better stuff. There's a few pieces left. The best few are to come. Okay, so this is another really awesome cover. Really, really awesome. It's got the text box, doesn't have the text in it yet, but here is printer's proof for Rocket to the Moon by Joe Orlando. What a nice cover. That's a fantastic cover. So here is 1951, Joe Orlando, Rocket to the Moon, printer's proof. That is so awesome. Like that's just fantastic art. I love these sci-fi covers. EC artist, Joe Orlando, as well. Now this is something different. This, I have absolutely no idea what this was for. But as you can see, Joe Kubert art. 1950s Avon, Joe Kubert, unpublished cover art. As far as I know, this was meant to be a cover, and has to be cover art. The way that this is gone, this is fantastic. This artwork right here, it's so nice. This has got to be for a cover. I cannot find this on a cover of any book anywhere. As far as I know, this is completely unpublished Joe Kubert artwork. That's just awesome. That is amazing. Be able to still find this kind of stuff. So I can tell you a bit about what I have found out about this. So everyone knows also it is signed right here, Kubert, right down there. You see it says USA on his outfit. USA is on his ship. And it says Lunar Station number 3. I don't know if that'll help identify the comic series or the stories or whatnot. Lunar Station number 3. So anyway, that artwork there, I've tried to find it. I can't find that artwork there anywhere I've looked. I know that Joe Kubert did, once again, this Attack on Planet Mars. He did not do the cover that was published, but he did the inside of the cover. So this is 1951. There's Attack on Planet Mars. There's the cover. That was by Gene Fawcett. The inside cover by Joe Kubert. Now it says that chapter 1, this first story, had the Joe Kubert did the inks. But then I've read on another book that was like a reprinting of it that Joe Kubert did the pencils. So he may have done the first story. I'm not sure if there's conflicting information about that. But he did the inside, so I'm not sure if maybe this was going to be used as the cover for Attack on Planet Mars, but then instead they went with this cover. You look at it, is really similar. They had a few similar covers. Avon Comics did. Very similar with the spaceships and the aliens and whatnot coming out of the spaceship. It almost looks like they have like wings, like they're flying, but they got helmets on. There's X's on them, on their chests. So it looks similar, Attack on Planet Mars. It also looks similar to, here's Strange Worlds. So this reprints Attack on Planet Mars. This one's from 1954, Avon Comics. This says Joe Kubert did the pencils on the first story. But again, it's a very similar to the aliens coming out of the spaceship and a guy and a girl. It's really like very, very similar type cover that they used. I don't know if, as far as I know, completely unknown to exist, unpublished artwork by Joe Kubert. As far as I know from any research I've done, I can't find it anywhere. So that's just fantastic. Unpublished Joe Kubert artwork from the 50s. Beautiful, beautiful sci-fi cover that just went unpublished by Avon Comics. It's just fantastic work. Like it's such a great cover. I can't believe they wouldn't have published that. I love it. It's great artwork. And now, here's the final item. This is what really really caught my attention. Because when I saw it, I knew exactly what I thought it was, but it wasn't what I thought it was. Would you check out this? House of Horror. What, right? People are looking at this right now thinking, what the is that? House of Horror? Because that looks really familiar, that cover. That picture on the cover looks very, very familiar from the most famous Avon 50s horror comic of all, Eerie Comics, the one-shot. Anyone else notice that? That's what I thought right away. As soon as I saw that, I immediately thought of Eerie Comics. So I'll just hold up page beside each other. Check that out. That is a complete swipe of Eerie Comics. That is the same guy with the same moon, the same staircase. They shortened it by like 2 steps so it doesn't go up as high. The same broken railing on it, the same broken railing under his arm, except instead of having a knife, now he's got like the Hounds of Hell on a leash, and there's some bats flying by instead of the other pillars. The girl isn't tied up on the ground anymore. Now it's got a girl standing, and there's a skull at the bottom corner. But House of Horror, that title, completely unknown to exist. That is an unpublished comic. This artwork right here, this printer's proof, completely unknown. It is not listed anywhere. Nobody has ever found this before or seen this. There's no information about it anywhere. There's no photos of it online, on the internet. Nothing. Like, this has been buried for all these years. Who knows where the original art is, but it apparently has never surfaced, or it's not known of, because you can't find this anywhere. Any mention of a House of Horror at all, you cannot find anywhere. That is awesome. Unpublished 50s horror comic by Avon Comics. House of Horror. Now, of course, everyone knows Eerie Comics. Quick little history lesson. Of course, everybody knows Eerie. Well, everybody should know Eerie Comics. Everyone who's into horror comics knows Eerie Comics. This is like a grail. I'd love to have a copy someday. They're real expensive, but you know, one day might have a copy. But of course, Eerie Comics was really early full horror comic. Not the first. It was written in some books back in like the 80s that it was the first horror type comic, anthology style, but it was not. It was the second. But it was very early. It was the most notoriously well-known horror comic, and it was a very early one. It was the second one ever published. And it was a bit more horrific than the other ones, and it was noticed and written about. So, of course, everyone knows, first actual horror comic, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, August 1943. That was published in the United States and distributed in the United States. It was even distributed in Canada. It has 10-cent cover price, 15 cents in Canada. First ever full horror comic, cover to cover. Now, of course, it was not new material. They just illustrated the classic story of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and it was one story, the whole comic end to end, not new material, not anthology style, but it was the first horror comic. Here's the Canadian edition. This is the first horror comic that was published in Canada, 1946, full of ties. Is the Canadian edition, 1946, is when we published it. We had this American one distributed. We did not publish it here in Canada. This is the first published in Canada. First anthology style horror comic published in the States, all horror cover to cover, was Spook Comics. Spook Comics #1. #2, they had the artwork made. #2 was never published. Bailey Publications out of business. That was the first cover to cover horror comic. It was not that gory. There was a story with devils that killed people. There was a story about zombies, but then the other stories were like ghost stories for the kids, younger kids, more child friendly. This is the Canadian edition of Spook Comics, also 1946, so it ties for the first horror comic published in Canada. Although we did not see this. This was not distributed here. This was direct to market to the United Kingdom. It went right to London, England, and was distributed by Streamline Books. It was never distributed in Canada, but it was published here. First horror comic ever published in Canada. First horror comic ever distributed in the UK. Also, not really noticed, because it wasn't as horrible as Eerie Comics. Eerie Comics was only published in the States. It was not published in Canada. It was not published in the UK. But it was known in the UK and around the world as early as 1950. It was written about in this book, Juniors, by George H. Pumphrey. And he wrote about it again in like 52, 53, 54 during the British anti-comics campaign. He was kind of like how the United States had Frederick Wortham, who was the head figure of the comics campaign against the horror comics in the 50s. George Pumphrey, he was one in the UK, and he even mentioned it in this book, 1950. He had borrowed a copy from a 9-year-old girl, and he details the horrific stories that are in Eerie Comics, and talks all about them, and in his other writings talks about them also. So Eerie Comics was the one that actually got noticed, and everybody knows that knows horror comics knows Eerie Comics. It's like one of the first, and it was the best, most well-known first horror comic that was anthology style. Well, Spook Comics beat it, but people thought it was anyway back in the 70s and 80s. But it is very, very well known, and this reuses Avon Comics themselves. We're going to reuse that image. So this has a lot of strange stuff going on, but I'll tell you what I think that this actually was for, or what it actually is. You know, it's like all the comics back then were 10 cents, usually. Except the giant editions, 25 cents. You see it has a 25-cent price on it. So, I can show you what they did have back then, Eerie Comics. So, if you also notice House of Horror, the text on it is exact same as this one that actually was published, Diary of Horror by Avon Comics. This was December 1952. Has the same of horror. Now, of course, this is 10-cent comic. This is 25. So that's the only other comic that has any kind of text that's closest. It's very similar. They reuse the same text over. But what I believe it actually is more like is this book that was published, Secret Diary of Eerie Adventures, 1953. So you can see the price, 25 cents. So what this was is it was 3 remaindered comics that were stapled together, and they had a new cover made up, and they put a new cover over top of it, and they resold these books that went unsold originally to try and make some money from selling them. And other companies did this, like EC Comics had the annuals where they took unsold remainder copies and they put them together and put a cover on them and sell them. That's like a giant size edition. A few companies, it wasn't even every company, but there was a bunch of companies that did it, but they didn't do it that often, not like all the time. Like a lot of times the companies only had like one book or a couple books where they did this just to try out selling it on like a resale market, try to make some money off it. It wasn't really done all that often. A lot of remainder books were like sent overseas to like other places, like over to the UK, remaindered American comics. And even Canadian comics. We even had I found a little while ago a Jumbo Comics that had remainder Canadian comics that were bound together here in Canada and a Canadian cover put on them, resold in the UK market. I even found a remainder comic where it was three remainder American comics that were bound together in the UK, and it was published in the UK with a UK made comic cover put over top. So this is what I think is what they were doing, is just like this. This had Eerie number 6, Witchcraft number 1, and Boy Detective number 4. Those 3 comics were stapled together, bound together, and had this cover wrap put on them, and they were resold. The unsold copies were put back out to market. I think that is what they were intending to do with this. That would be my best guess. That's what I'm going to put out there, is that this was going to be a cover used on remaindered horror comics. They were probably like, if they had remaindered Eerie number 1 and maybe remaindered Diary of Horrors and maybe another remaindered horror comic, Eerie comic or whatnot, they would have put 3 of them together and put a cover over top of the 3 remainder comics and then resell it 25 cents to try and make some money off of the remainders that didn't sell. That is what my opinion is. If anyone else can think of anything better or knows of this cover, has ever seen, or even this cover has ever seen any of this stuff before, or maybe have any other ideas, let me know. Leave me a comment, leave me a message, whatnot. I'd love to hear anyone else knows anything about these, but How awesome is that? That is fantastic stuff. I mean, House of Horror, unpublished cover art for 50s American Horror comic. We got the Joe Kubert unpublished cover. Got some Joe Orlando on cover art there. We got this all pasted up. LB Cole cover art. Like, fantastic stuff. Like, I'm so happy to have this. I'm gonna frame a bunch of this stuff and hang it up on my walls in here. I am so happy to have these things. These are just great. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video, making some new comic history with me today, checking out some really awesome stuff. Till next time, cheers.